And welcome to hour two. This is crazy. I just heard something that I didn't realize, that Jimmy Roberts has my friend Jim Lampley beat by 6 when it comes to the Olympics. NBC's very own Jimmy Roberts joins us now here. And how many Olympic games have you covered now, Jimmy?
20.
20? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite?
You know, two that I really liked a lot were Lillehammer, Norway. They were first of all, it was such an amazing place, but then there was the whole, one of my favorite stories in Olympic history, Dan Jansen, which was just great. And then the other one that I really liked a lot was Athens. Athens was amazing. Just amazing. Just can't say enough about that one. My first was Lake Placid.
Oh, my God. So, hey, take us back there to Lake Placid. And you know what's funny, too? Lampley last week told us that thing was taped. You guys had to, hold it in the can until later on because ABC's Wide World of Sports with Jim McKay, they ended up making sure that they had that thing in the afternoon and they put it in prime time. How hard was that for you guys? I mean, obviously, people had to know. Some folks had to know about it. How hard was that to hold that great story back then?
Well, first, let me give you some context regarding my involvement. It was one of my first jobs in television. I was what they called a gopher. I did the graphics on speed skating. I was the stand-in for Jim McKay during rehearsal. So I didn't have anything to do with anything other than making sure I didn't screw something up. But you got to understand, it was just a different time. There was no internet. The way that people got their information was the newspapers and magazines, which they actually held. So while the radio, I'm sure, word had filtered out, most people didn't know. And so it might have appeared plausibly live, who knows, but it didn't lessen the impact. It was kind of amazing. And the whole thing was just so remarkable. Lake Placid is a postage stamp of a town, and nothing will ever happen like that again. That town, as small as it was, the David and Goliath story. I mean, it's fantastic that both the men and women won the hockey gold medals for the United States this year. But if you don't know the history about what happened in 1980, the United States team had no business winning that based upon their results and who they were playing. It was inconceivable. So it was just an amazing. And by the way, all that USA, that was the first time. That was the genesis of all of that.
Jimmy, let me take you to like the pre-produced stuff versus the days back with ABC Sports. I mean, NBC got tremendous ratings for what they did with Milan, and I loved the Olympic Games. I thought NBC did a sensational job. Mike Tirico was just spectacular in how he's hosted amazing. The prime time. He is really amazing. So again, do you feel though, is it just the modern times now? All this stuff has to be pre-produced. Like back in the day when we were watching Munich, we were watching Montreal. All that stuff was live, and it was right at that particular moment. What's your takeaway on canned production when it comes to the Olympics? Are you a fan of it? Would you rather have it live, or is it impossible?
I think it's impossible in this day and age. I mean, and you see it because at least at NBC, we put it all on live because, and I think the tide started to shift in about 2000 in Sydney when information started circulating so much more quickly. And at that point, NBC was still holding a lot of the events until prime time because that was where the commercials were worth the most money, and that was where our obligation was to get the ratings to be able to pay for the contract. But that was, I think, the tipping point because people knew or were starting to know. And so ever since then, it's been a topic of discussion. That's why an Olympics, for instance, in the Western time zone, it's going to be fantastic because everything's going to be live. A lot's going to be in prime time. So the next Olympics is going to be pretty special. But it's just, you got to roll with the times, I suppose.
Absolutely. LA 28 is going to be off the chain. I can't wait for it. So let's putt right now a little bit here. I thought I would never see anything like Jack Nicklaus. I thought I would never see anything like Tiger Woods. Scottie Scheffler and what he's accomplishing right now, can he keep the momentum up? Is that really the big storyline with him? Because Tiger kept it up for over a decade, Jack for numerous decades. Can he keep it up, in your opinion, on what he's doing? Because this stuff looks like Byron Nelson when Nelson won all those tournaments in a row. Your takeaways on Scottie Scheffler?
Well, I think he's extraordinary. I mean, I think what you need to kind of understand is the length of time that Jack did what he did and Tiger did what he did. I mean, I still say the most impressive statistic in golf, certainly, maybe in all of sports, Tiger didn't miss a cut for like 8 years. I'm going to forget the number. It's 147 or something like that. That's inconceivable. It's hard to imagine that you're just not going to have a bad day. You're not going to wake up with a cold. You're not going to hurt yourself. It's hard to fathom. And Scotty's got a long, long way to go, but I think he'd be the first person to tell you that, it's the first inning with him or the second inning with him. He's been extraordinary. 2 major championships last year, in the hunt all the time until he finished out of the top 10, I guess, last week. He had a streak going. He's extraordinary. And I think if you play golf, you have even more of an appreciation for it because he does something, you hear about it all the time, ball striking. That means how do you hit the ball mostly from the fairway? And he hits it so close, which makes the rest of it so much easier. And I know it's a nuance and, it's kind of an esoteric thought, but if you know golf, you know that watching him is just really, really special. But he's got a long way to go. And by the way, I got to just say one more thing. Roy Firestone, I mean, I don't know if it got overlooked. That Paul McCartney imitation and the Richard Nixon imitation, that was pretty damn good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Roy's a man of many talents there. Hey, you mentioned something, though, Jimmy. Let me ask you and put you on the spot. Jack's 18 majors and 19 second places versus Tiger Woods' consecutive cut streak. What do you think is more impressive?
I think it's a tie for the gold medal there. I mean, I'm a Jack guy. I really am. I just think that, Jack won 18 major championships, throwing 2 more for his U.S. amateurs. I think that Tiger's winning percentage is much, much better. Tiger has he's won, it depends on, how you figure this out, but Tiger has won more events on the PGA Tour than Jack did. That's unquestionable. But I mean, both of them are extraordinary. I'm looking for the right comparison. Who do you like? You like LeBron or do you like Michael?
Absolutely. I'm a Jack guy too. And I think Nicklaus's 19 runner-ups and his 18 majors, and like you said, his 2 United States amateurs. Not that Tiger wasn't a slouch on the amateur tour as well, but I mean, there is no question. You're talking about one of the absolutely greats. We're going to continue our conversation with our friend here, Jimmy Roberts, but don't forget our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason, with over $30 billion recovered. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650K. They ended up getting nearly $30 million in recovery. Or how about the family down in Florida? They were initially offered $350,000. They ended up getting nearly $12 million in settlement. Folks, I tell you this all the time. Please log on. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound love 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound love 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sales sent you. We're going to do more with Jimmy Roberts here. We're going to talk about LIV and also Tiger Woods' involvement now more so than ever on the PGA Tour and potentially who the favorites are going into the Augusta National. I mean, could Tiger be there? That is yet to be determined yet. I saw him on the Genesis making a comment that that's not off the table yet. So we will talk with Jimmy Roberts from NBC. We'll do that next. And you keep it right here on SportsGrid.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it. Yeah. Don't you think so?
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, we get an opportunity to continue our conversation with the legendary Jimmy Roberts from NBC, and I want to talk to you about LIV here. And do you believe that LIV will ever be on the same page with the PGA, Jimmy, where they'll get world rankings for players? Do you think that will ever happen, or do you think that's a long way away?
Well, a couple things. First of all, a recent development a couple of weeks ago, the official World Golf Ranking Committee announced that they were going to start giving world ranking points in LIV tournaments, but only to those who finished in the top 10. Of course, LIV this year has gone to 72 holes instead of 54 holes. That was one of the hangups. Actually, on this show that I do now, it's called The Big Swing with Jimmy Roberts. It's on Golf Channel on Tuesdays, and then on YouTube and everywhere else you get your podcasts on Wednesday, first release. But the first episode we had was with Greg Norman, and we talked to him a lot about LIV and its struggles. I don't know that there'll ever be an equivalent of the PGA Tour. The best players in the world are on the PGA Tour. And I think if you would have asked me 2 years ago who had the upper hand in the negotiations, which apparently are ongoing, I definitely would have said it looked like LIV did, with the departure of, people like John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. But now, with the PGA Tour bringing in a new CEO, a man who's kind of rearranging the deck chairs and changing things around, you're going to see big changes on the PGA Tour, perhaps next year, certainly the year after that, in terms of the schedule. And they brought in private equity, or they like to say it's not private equity, it's just an infusion of money, almost potentially $3 billion, to basically challenge LIV and all of the money that they're giving to players. And things have definitely shifted the other way, and we've seen it. And I think LIV's going to have its hands full.
The loss of Brooks Koepka means what to LIV? How important was that for the PGA to get him back? He ended up playing, I believe, Jimmy, give me the number if I'm wrong here, north of $10 million, right? For a fine that he played non-PGA events. What was the ramifications against LIV by losing a player like that?
It wasn't good for them. And Patrick Reed also followed. He's coming back. I think LIV is kind of putting their bank on younger players now, trying to build. But the question remains, how long can they stick around? How much money are they willing to lose. I mean, you've got to understand that the people who are banking this, the Saudis, this isn't significant money to them, or at least not in the context of things that they spend on and the amount that they spend. So, and the other thing to kind of consider is that LIV may not be successful in the United States, and I don't think there's any doubt that it's really been a struggle, but internationally, it's a different story. I mean, it's not wildly successful, but the profile's a lot different. That had that event down in Adelaide, which was wildly successful. And there are a lot of places around the world where you don't get to see the best golfers in person, and that's to a certain degree been their appeal. But I think the linchpin for all of this, Dan, is that if they lose Bryson DeChambeau, that's when the house collapses.
How about the involvement of Tiger? I saw him at the Genesis talk about his involvement. He is really involved, especially in the scheduling for 2027. There's going to be something, I guess, released over the next couple months here. Tiger said that they're working diligently on what that schedule is going to look like. His involvement, and he's really taken a centerpiece step in being the front man for this. What's the impact of having Tiger out front of the PGA Tour now?
He's the big cat. I mean, he's the biggest name in the game, and Tiger is on what they call the Future Competitions Committee, the FCC, and that was something created by the new PGA Tour CEO, Brian Rolap, who came over from the NFL, where he was number 2, and he has been very frank about saying that going forward, he's going to respect traditions, but he's not going to be a slave to it. So I think things are really going to change. I mentioned this before. You're going to see fewer tournaments. And I think just my personal opinion is that one of the problems that the PGA Tour had was that they just had too many tournaments. There was no reason to care as much as they were putting on. Golf became tennis. It used to be that golf started in January and ended in August with the PGA Championship, and then the fall was what we used to call the silly season. But if you want, it's basic economic theory. If you want to make something more valuable, you don't make more of it, you make less of it. And I think that's the tour is moving in that direction, and Tiger's at the forefront. He obviously cares an awful lot about this. It's a way for him to stay engaged when he's not competitive anymore, certainly not on the PGA Tour. We'll see this year, of course, he turned 50, and he's eligible to play senior golf, which is just 54 holes, with the exception of the senior majors. And he can ride a cart. So it'll be interesting to see. And we'll see if he shows up at Augusta. I know he'd love to, but to be determined.
Who do you think some of the favorites are going into Augusta in early part of April?
I think what was what was the line from Casablanca? Round up the usual suspects. I got to think that Rory is a favorite, defending champion. That monkey's off his back now. He won his Masters last year, career Grand Slam. I got to think he's going to be pretty comfortable there. That place suits him so well. Drives it a mile, has a lot of experience. And Scheffler, I mean, put them 1 and 1A. And I would imagine if you go on all the betting sites, that's what you're going to see.
Jimmy, do you think Tiger will ever get to being a official starter at the Augusta National? Do you think he's looking forward to that?
Listen, the Tiger I know has no interest in being a ceremonial guy. Now, that said, the Jack that I knew back when he was playing, I would have probably said the same thing about it. The older we get, the more things change, and the more things change that we didn't see coming. Who knows? But right now, the Tiger I know, it'd be hard for me to imagine that.
Yeah, I know. Tiger Woods is like, I have a hard time thinking that he's even going to play on the senior tour. So, I mean, I'm with you, Jimmy. Jimmy, real quick, 30 seconds. Tell us a little bit about the show again.
The show is The Big Swing with Jimmy Roberts, Tuesday mornings on Golf Channel. It's on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere else, starting Wednesdays. It's all about the business side of golf. Last year it was a $250 billion a year business. And if you have any question, just think about this. There are more golf courses in the United States than there are McDonald's. And a third of the American population in some way or another is engaged with the game.
Absolutely. And also on YouTube as well. Jimmy Roberts, thank you so much, my friend. It's always great catching up with you, and you always find time for us. Thank you, my friend.
Dan, good to see you. Anytime.
You got it. That is my friend, Jimmy Roberts. The NCAA is at it again. We will hit on that right here on SportsGrid.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. You saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
You know, 30 plus years ago, I decided to get into sports talk radio. And I wanted to get into sports talk because I had a massive problem with how the NCAA ran college sports, not paying athletes, and also the transfer portal and eligibility status. Chandler Morris, the starting quarterback for the Virginia Cavaliers, who got his team to the ACC championship and ended up losing a very close game to Duke for the ACC title, is now petitioning the NCAA, who I like to dub as the National Communist Association of America, and how they run that organization or think they run that organization. He petitioned them because of a medical hardship. He's trying to get another year of eligibility. I believe it's his 7th season now that he's trying to get to be the quarterback of the Virginia Cavaliers. I say this all the time. It is absolutely great watching the NCAA lose these cases. You know, I heard something interesting at the Combines. Do you know what Brett Veach said, the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs? He said that, we'd have a lot more guys that we would have at the top of our draft board if we had guys that decided not to stay in college. More kids are staying in college. Why? Because they're getting an opportunity to be economically sound and set when they leave college. Take an instance for this. If you look at Arch Manning, when Arch Manning leaves Texas and he leaves Austin, he would have made nearly $20 million before he even takes a professional snap in the National Football League. College football, college basketball is becoming more of an economical stay for these kids. It's actually making the college ranks better. The NCAA is still getting in the way with their antiquated rules and a rule book that has not been updated since 1954. They think they still have control over these players. They do not. The conferences have now superseded the NCAA. I love the fact that this kid is going to get an opportunity to go back. I love the fact that you have guys constantly petitioning to try to get eligibility, like Chambers down at Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambers being able to go back and him being able to get back in to Ole Miss, I think is a godsend for college sports. I think it's a great thing. And to see Chandler Morris do the same thing, that is absolutely fabulous. Listen, I had a year of my eligibility taken away. And this has been a crusade of mine for over 25 to 30 years. When they took my eligibility away because I tried to graduate, go figure, I tried to graduate. The NCAA came in and said, no, we're taking your senior year away from you at the University of Miami. And I always thought that to me cost me millions of dollars, and it cost me an opportunity to go higher in the draft. I ended up getting drafted anyway. I was the 56th player taken, but still, they took my senior year away from me. And I am so glad to see that these kids are fighting the NCAA in the most important place. You know where that is? The courtroom. They are beating the NCAA in what's right and wrong. For years, they believed that they were the upper hand and the heavy hand of college sports. And they were always on the players, and they would never, ever give the player the opportunity to ever come back and play in college. With the money that's being generated, with nil, name, likeness, and image, all of that stuff, make no mistake about it, I think college sports is in a great place. I know that there's people that completely disagree with me on this. They think college sports right now, and they want to see the president, and they want to have a get-together at the White House over the next couple months and talk about the landscape of college sports. There's no such thing as amateur sports. Amateur sports is gone. It is long gone. It has been long gone. The only thing that people hide behind, it's amateurs. They hid behind that for decades. When people were making millions and millions of dollars. No shade on Curt Cignetti. He's making $14 million a year. Do you realize that would be the 6th highest paid coach in the National Football League right now? If Curt Cignetti was in the NFL, he'd be making more money than the head football coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Todd Bowles. $14 million to coach in college sports. I am so happy to see where the game is going. I am happy to see where the sport is going. And make no mistake about it, we are looking at the very end of the NCAA, and it's just about out of gas in its play in college sports. The SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC, and the television networks. They run college sports. Make no mistake about it. They are now the kings. We are going to talk with one of my favorite coaches in NFL history, Bruce Arians, next, right here on SportsGrid.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number 1 in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers record was better, but he's still a James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
You know, the Underwear Olympics are going on in Indianapolis as I speak right now. Make no mistake about it. I mean, you know, you had the combines going on in the NFL, and make no mistake about it, you know, everyone's there and everyone's looking at prospects and everyone's looking at potential guys that they may want to end up drafting. But at the end of the day, also, there's general managers and agents there, and you get a chance to see some of the guys that you may want to move, maybe want to trade for. And it's always interesting to see that. Also, a lot of news when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's my friend, Bruce Arians. We caught up with him earlier before the program today, the Super Bowl winning coach, Bruce Arians. All right, one of my absolutely favorite people to talk to is Bruce Arians, the head football coach, former head football coach, I should say, of the Buccaneers. Maybe he should be back in the National Football League. But, Coach, I appreciate you doing this, and I first and foremost want to start out with your health. You know, I sent you a text message, and I'm sure you got 1,000 of those text messages because you put a statement out later on. Guys, it's just a procedure, and everything is okay. How is everything going, Coach?
Doing fantastic. Yeah, the people at Penn Hospital are fantastic. Dr. Desai, Emily Morgan, her crew, the nurses. We had a great Super Bowl party in my room, but I'm doing fantastic. Home and healthy, and yeah, very, very grateful.
Absolutely. Coach, let me go into the Bucs here, and you know, I'll ask you right out of the gate. You know, one of the big names going around Indianapolis this past week has been Mike Evans. Jason Licht, the general manager of the Bucs, and also Todd Bowles was there speaking, and they really want the player back. But, you know, in today's economics, Coach, it comes down to money. This comes down to building on the other side of the ball. You know, these are always tough transition moments, aren't they, when you got a legendary player and how you have to deal with it. In your opinion, should the Buccaneers bring Mike Evans back? And do the Buccaneers look at Mike Evans as a guy that maybe that he should be able to go out in free agency and test the waters?
Yeah, I think everybody realizes he's earned the right to check it out. And, you know, I know everybody desperately wants him back in a Tampa uniform because he means so much, not just to the team, but to the city. I mean, he's one of the best dudes that has ever played in Tampa, and what his foundation does is amazing. So, yeah, I mean, we want the person and we want the player back.
Absolutely, Coach. I mean, how difficult, though, is that decision when you got a player like that? Because, you know, years ago when I was doing sports talk down in Tampa, we went through the same thing with Derek Brooks. How do you balance that out when you got a legendary guy like that? And as you know, Coach, the economics of the sport, this is what makes the sport and the word parity that the NFL so embraces. How tough is that to be in an organization in a spot like the Glazers are right now?
I don't think it's very tough. I mean, it's just a matter of just meeting somewhere in the middle. You know, I think Mike loves Tampa. Tampa loves Mike. I mean, Chris Godwin went through this last year, and he was actually rehabbing more so than Mike is. But, you know, I think he earns the right to check the market and then bring the market back. I'd be very, very shocked if he wanted to leave. And all the parties just got to come to a good agreement. You know what I mean?
Coach, I'll tell you one thing that, you know, one of your last nuggets that you left for the Buccaneers before you stepped down as head coach was being involved in the negotiations. I know you were with bringing Baker Mayfield to Tampa, and that was one of your crowning, you know, nuggets as you walked out the door there. You know, where are they now, right now with potentially giving him a contract extension? Do you believe the Buccaneers want him to be the face of the franchise for the next couple of years?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. You know, he's won over the town. I agree with Jason and Todd. Hey, man, you need to slide a little bit more often and quit being the toughest Sunday in the valley, you know. But that's just the way he plays, man. And but you got to avoid those injuries. And but he's earned the right to be the face of the franchise.
Coach, when you have so many changes on the coaching staff as Coach Bowles has had there in Tampa, 12 new faces in the coaching staff, and you have that kind of turnover, Are you expecting a rocky start? Are you expecting maybe an energized start? Because sometimes when you get new thoughts in there, Zach Robinson, who was in Atlanta, obviously as the OC there, did a really nice job, probably more so in 24 than in 25 because there were a lot of indecisions at the quarterback position on what they were doing with Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins. How do you see that whole transition on what they did there in Tampa with all those new faces on the staff?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be very hard offensively because I think a lot of the terminology is the same. Those guys all came from Sean McVay's system. And so I think it's just a matter of personalities, getting to know each other and getting to know the players and what the strengths are and building the offense around the players. Defensively, there's still a lot of continuity. Todd's running the same defense, and the core guys are back, Mike Caldwell, Larry Foote. So, yeah, I mean, I think there needed to be some changes. Sometimes not that many changes, but I think Todd did the right thing for the Bucs.
Coach, I got to tell you, I'm not gonna lie to you, Coach. I hate the combines because I think it's fool's gold. It's called the underwear Olympics. And so, you got a guy. I had a guy the other day tell me, "You see that guy run a 4.78?" I'm like, "Well, what's his tape look like? I mean, what's his game tape look like?" A guy back in the day by the name of Jimmy Johnson told me he was a 20-foot rule guy. All I needed to see was 20 feet of tape, and I knew if the guy could play or not. It had nothing to do with it. How do you look at these combines?
Yeah, it's the Olympics. There's so many guys that just shoot up draft boards because they run so fast, but the tape doesn't say they play that fast. And the tape don't lie. The combine lies to you. And I can see these guys running 4.23, but they can't turn at wide receiver. They come about, they can't cut, and so yeah, it's a great barometer because you have so many numbers. All these damn analytics people, they love to crunch those numbers, and I've seen it in certain positions and certain drills. I'd go back to I think Ricky Williams ran the worst 3-cone of any running back in a long time. Well, it did pan out a little bit, but it's something for me to measure with, but it ain't nothing to do with football.
That's for dang sure. Coach, I'll tell you, Bernie Kosar said something to me about today's quarterback and reading of today's quarterbacks. He thinks technology has absolutely ruined the development of quarterbacks. And he said this, Coach, with the earplugs like I have in the helmets, and, you're telling these guys all the way up until 15 seconds where to go with the ball. Bernie said that he had to get to the line of scrimmage, and he had to figure it out. He had to dissect the secondaries. He had to know his pre-snap reads. He had to know his landmarks. And he thinks that really kind of has hurt the development of today's quarterback and progression reading. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no. I think the communication, it cuts off so early. There's only so much you can say. And, if it's a loud stadium, they got to say it again. That's why I've always been a wristband guy. Give them a number, let them read it real fast. And that way it gives me another 5 seconds. Hey, don't be afraid to take your shot. If you get the right matchup, hey, go one-on-one, 3rd and 2, take the shot down the field. Just little tidbits, but there's not a hell of a lot you can do as far as reading the defense till you get up there and see it. And I'm with you. And Bernie was one of the brightest guys, as far as post-snap reading. And I think post-snap reading is a lost art. Right now, everything is send motion. Is it man or zone? Do a shift, do a motion, try to confuse them, then go 1, 2, 3, run. And that's not the style of football I like playing.
Coach, can you do me a favor? Can you stay just for a little bit longer here? I got a couple more questions to ask you.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Absolutely. Bruce Arians here with us. You keep it right here on SportsGrid. And we are going to continue that conversation with Bruce Arians, the owner of a Super Bowl ring. And by the way, let's not forget something there, that Ben Roethlisberger and him, they also won a couple Super Bowls as well. So we're going to talk with him. We'll get his opinions on it. As you can tell, there is no sugarcoating anything with Coach Bruce Arians. And I love the fact that he's gotten into media and he tells it like it is. There's no doubt. Can you imagine playing for a guy like that? This is again, the guy who coached Ben Roethlisberger is going to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Tom Brady. More with that discussion with Bruce Arians next, right here on SportsGrid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake?
Liar, cheater, gaslighter.
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
We went against this god-awful biggest waste of human flesh and basketball uniform Western Illinois team last time out. Remember, they actually won a game against Eastern Illinois. Only their 5th win on the season, 5-21. Only their first win in conference play in the Ohio Valley. They're hosting Little Rock. You know, Little Rock is 6-8. They're halfway decent. I mean, they're better than 5-21.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
They're probably not going to take a lot of Seattle bets. Putting Kansas City at the same number as Detroit or behind LA, way behind Green Bay, way behind Buffalo or Baltimore, who they beat every year, it feels like they are asking for Chiefs money. That would be my read on it, which I feel like usually the idea, Cam, is they never have to ask for Chiefs money.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
No mistake about it. One of my favorite coaches on the planet is Bruce Arians. It reminds me a lot of my coach, Jimmy Johnson. It was called the production totem pole. You know what that means? Hey, you could be, without a doubt, a guy who is a little bit of a loose cannon, but at the end of the day, okay, you make sure you are a productive player. And I love Bruce Arians. Here's more with our discussion with the legendary coach who won a Super Bowl in Tampa with Tom Brady. Here is Bruce Arians. More with one of my favorite coaches of all time, Bruce Arians here. He joins us here on SportsGrid. Coach, how would you handle a guy like A.J. Brown? And help me out on this, Coach. The last 4 years, he's 50-18. He makes north of $30 million. He's got 2 NFC championship rings and a Super Bowl, and the dude's not happy. Now, I want you to help me out on what happiness is. I mean, do you want numbers or is it about winning? How would Bruce Arians handle A.J. Brown?
Yeah, I think it's touchy, man. I mean, these guys all want the ball because of their peers and how much they make and everything else. But again, it always goes back to winning. If winning doesn't cure all the ills, then there's a problem, to me, because this is the ultimate team game. And it is about winning and as a team. And the individual accolades should come from winning teams. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I've always had a good relationship with every player I've coached. And, it doesn't always turn out great, but we try to meet in the middle.
Coach, who did you enjoy coaching more, Ben Roethlisberger or Tom Brady?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably Ben. I had Tom for such a short time. And but we won Super Bowls together. Ben, because we were together so much longer. And, he was so much younger than Tom. And, that drive he had in Super Bowl 43 was unbelievable. He should have been MVP of the game. But, I'm enjoying going to Canton for the next few years, with Fitz and Adam Vinatieri this year. And hopefully those guys I'll have somebody going in every year now. I'll be back in Canton watching these guys go in the Hall of Fame.
Maybe one day we see Bruce Arians' name there too, because if you put your name up next to coaches like Jimmy Johnson, Coach, your name is right there with those guys with the amount of wins and percentage of wins and all that there. You mentioned something there about fun, Coach. Sometimes, you get into a situation where it becomes a grind. You said Roethlisberger, coaching him was fun. Was it more of was it more difficult to coach Tom Brady? Because, I talked to Jimmy about coaching Troy Aikman, and he said it was the toughest player he ever coached, actually, was Troy Aikman, because he had to keep everybody together there, and it was Troy's responsibility. Was it fun coaching Tom Brady?
Oh yeah, it was a blast. It was such a weird year because COVID hit. We signed Tom, and then we signed Gronk. COVID hits. We have no spring practice. We can never meet. And all of a sudden, we got all these crazy training camp rules put out by the NFL. My wife met Tom Brady for the first time on the stage at the Super Bowl that year. That's how crazy that year. That's how crazy that year was. And Byron Leftwich doesn't get enough credit for the job he did. Taking our offense and Tom's offense, meshing everything together, and putting together unbelievable game plans and calling great games with Tommy.
Coach, Sam Darnold just wins the Super Bowl. Are you under the belief that organizations let down quarterbacks more so than quarterbacks let down organizations? This guy went from one organization to another organization to another organization. He got around really good coaching in Minnesota. Then he goes to Seattle, gets really exceptional coaching with Clint Kubiak and Mike McDaniel up there. You tell me, Coach, do you think that's a true statement that organizations let down quarterbacks more than quarterbacks let down organizations?
Totally. Yeah, totally. Because they don't have patience. You're drafting this young kid, first, second, or third. First of all, if you got the first, second, or third pick, your team stinks. All right. You got a lot of work to do here. And they're firing the quarterback coach or the coordinator his first 3 years. And all of a sudden he's going through 3 offenses and he's a bust. That's all bullshit. You got to have patience with these young guys. Owners don't have patience anymore. They want to win right now. And thinking that drafting a quarterback number 1 is the answer. Well, you got to have a left tackle, right tackle, center, and some receivers and running. You got to be able to run the ball a little bit and help the damn kid out. But now organizations definitely ruin most of the quarterbacks because you don't miss on the talent. That's for sure.
Coach, what do you make of, in 30 seconds here, what do you make of Fernando Mendoza, against Mike Caines? He really showed a lot of grit. I don't know when you look at the total skill set on what you think of him, but what do you think of Fernando Mendoza, who could potentially be the number 1 overall pick by the Raiders?
Yeah, for me, he fits all the measurables. He's got the height, weight, the speed, the arm strength, the accuracy, the bright brain. Those back shoulder throws he makes in clutch times, man, those are balls he throws, bro. And when he sucked it up and ran that ball in on the quarterback draw, he won a lot of guys over on toughness. I just think he's the total package right now. And he and Drake May, I think, were the guys that had all the measurables that hard to miss on.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. And by the way, he's a South Florida kid, and he went to Columbus, too, which makes it even more sad that UM didn't have him down there. And then he had to go to Cal, and he had to go to Indiana, which for me, that broke him off even more. Coach, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
You bet, brother. Last time I was in Christopher Columbus High School, I was recruiting Alonzo Highsmith and Mike Shula. That's a ways back, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach. And Coach Arians, who met with us a little bit earlier to the show here, and we had a chance to catch up with him. That's right. And by the way, he was recruiting when he was at Temple. He was recruiting also Derek Thomas. And Alonzo Highsmith now is a senior executive up in New England, and he works with Elliott Wolf now in trying to get this deal done with A.J. Brown. So we'll see what happens with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia, and also we'll see what happens with Mike Evans. Mike Evans reportedly, again, he's going to test free agency. His agent, Derek Gilmore, was there in Indianapolis, and there's a rumor going around now potentially that San Francisco could be the team that's going to make a play for Mike Evans to bring him into that Kyle Shanahan offense. Can you imagine that? You've got Mike Evans and you've got George Kittle and you got CMC there with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, and you're going to get Fred Warner, and you're going to get Nick Bosa back, that 49er team and that NFC West may look a lot difficult to get through. Make no mistake about it. All right, final thoughts with Big Stills. We'll do that next right here on SportsGrid.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
You know, a big centerpiece this week has been the conversation about the U.S. men's Olympic team and everything that was going on with the political aspects of it and how people were looking at it. Megan Rapinoe, of course, was absolutely taking a dump on this thing because of what happened with Kash Patel, the FBI director, being in the locker room there after the guys ended up winning the gold medal for Team USA. At the end of the day, though, this came down to a great moment. And what I really loved about it was how Jack Hughes is being perceived around the country now. Every single barn that this guy goes to, whether it's in Buffalo and he's with the Sabres, everybody is giving this guy a round of applause. And earlier this week, he had a chance, once he got back with his Devils there, he got a chance to meet the crowd in the Devils crowd there and just to give people thanks for what happened there in Milan. And I thought it was a moving moment here, seeing a guy just represent Team USA and what it meant to him.
I'm so proud and I'm so happy that the men's and women's USA hockey teams brought gold medals back to the United States of America. And you guys are making me emotional, but I'm so proud to represent the New Jersey Devils organization. And I'm so proud to represent the great state of New Jersey. So proud. From the bottom of my heart, all my teammates, USA teammates, we just want to thank you guys for all the love and the support. We feel it. Thank you.
Help me out. What's wrong with that? Help me out. What's wrong with that? Why do you have to pollute something like that? You see the love of the sport, the sweater he's wearing, the state, the country that he represents? Help me out again. What's wrong with that? How do you not, as an American, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whomever, how do you not root for that? How does that not make you smile and have great pride and great pride for the United States of America? How do you not have great pride for that? Every single barn that guy goes to from now on, this guy's not going to have to buy a drink anywhere he goes. You talking about being revered for the rest of your life, like Mike Eruzione from 1980. Everywhere that guy goes now, Jim Craig, who were part of that sensational team from 1980, Neil Broughton, all of those great men, Ken Morrow, that were on that team, those guys are icons in American sports. Jack Hughes elbows his way in. That entire Team USA does. Boy, I don't know about you, but that was national pride for me. And you know what? I can't remember an Olympic Games that made me feel that way for a great moment for both the men and the women winning the gold medal in Milan. How does that not put a smile on your face? How does that not make you have great pride for our country? I mean, we have so many things going on in our country right now. So many things. And without a doubt, you're watching a guy who's going around, like I saw him in Buffalo the other night. And even the Buffalo Sabre crowd were giving Jack Hughes a standing ovation for what he did with his hockey team and how those guys performed, and most notably how those guys conducted and carried themselves. I thought it was an absolutely awesome moment for our country, and I am proud. Hey, there's people right now that have taken swipes at this team the entire week. Why? You're miserable human beings. These people are miserable that take shots at that stuff. And to try to put words in people's mouth, that was just miserable, some of the articles that I read this week. These people are miserable in my sports media. That if you could dissect something like that, how unbelievable are you? I mean, you're just miserable. You're a miserable person if you don't celebrate what you saw in Milan. I also want to take this time to say God bless to our men and women that are in this new conflict in Iran. I'm proud to be an American. God bless our men and women who are fighting in this conflict. And we send nothing but great love for you guys as you defend democracy and defend what's right and wrong. God bless America, and I appreciate you, the men and women of our armed forces. Thank you so much for Call of Duty. It's important that we make sure every single time we see a military person, we salute them. We will see you tomorrow, and we will catch you on the flip side.
What is going on with this John Morant saga, right? Joe's on the block. Joe wants to be traded. But now Joe comes back and he denies all trade targets, and John says he has no desire to play elsewhere. So he shut it down. He's still viewed as a franchise centerpiece when on the floor. Memphis, they're better with him.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. I say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's the head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing.
There's more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.